When I bought my house 3 years ago, it came with a stunning red diamond paver. Driveway easily, the most beautiful feature on the entire block. The deep red stones shimmered in the sunlight and gave the home a kind of regal elegance. I spent extra to have it custom installed, and it instantly became my favorite thing about the property. I never imagined that one day it would be the center of a neighborhood war. Enter Karen. Karen lived 3 houses down from me. She was everything the name implies: overly entitled, deeply nosy, and obsessed with running our HOA, like she was the mayor of a city no one voted for. From the moment I moved in, she made it clear she believed herself to be the eyes and ears of the neighborhood. It didn't take long before she began to nitpick everything I did: how high my grass grew, where I parked, even what color I painted my front door. But it wasn't until a few months ago that things escalated beyond mild annoyance. I came home one afternoon to find a surveyor's stake hammered into the edge of my driveway. At first, I thought it must be a mistake. Maybe the city was doing something with the utilities. But when I followed the little orange flags, they led across a small portion of my driveway, specifically the part closest to the street. The next morning, I found a letter in my mailbox from the HOA. "Dear resident," it began, "it has come to our attention that a portion of your driveway may encroach on common HOA property. Until this matter is resolved, you are not permitted to make any modifications or repairs to the driveway. Regards, HOA President Karen." I stood in my front yard, stunned. The entire driveway had been on the original property survey when I bought the house. There was no way it extended into anything that wasn't mine. I immediately pulled out my paperwork, reviewed the property lines, and even contacted my real estate agent to double-check. Sure enough, the driveway was well within my boundary. Not 1 inch of it crossed into common space. So I went to the next HOA meeting. Documents in hand, Karen was sitting at the head of the table like a queen holding court. I calmly presented my case, laying out the survey and even photos from the original real estate listing. She barely glanced at them. "That section of land," she said, pointing at the highlighted edge of the driveway, "has always been a subject of confusion. It looks like part of the HOA maintained easement, but it's on my deed," I said. "It's clearly my property." She shook her head, condescending as ever. "Sometimes developers make mistakes. You may need to reassess this with the board's legal team." Translation: she was stalling. I later found out from another neighbor that Karen had been trying to get that piece of land designated as shared HOA space so she could install a new sidewalk that would run in front of my house, right across the red diamond pavers. The nerve of this woman. I consulted a property attorney who confirmed that my deed was solid. He even drafted a cease and desist letter, which I delivered personally to Karen's mailbox. Still, the flags remained, and I continued receiving vague notices from the HOA about pending property clarifications. Then, I learned something interesting. Karen had a private in-ground pool behind her house. But because of some outdated zoning issues, the only legal access to it for maintenance workers and inspectors was through a narrow path that ran across a strip of my land, something the previous owner had allowed her to use informally. There was no recorded easement, no agreement, just a handshake deal with the old neighbor. It wasn't legally binding. The next week I had a fence installed along the edge of my property, cutting off that path entirely. I made sure the fence was fully compliant with city codes and HOA rules. And of course, I notified the board in writing that I was restricting all access across my property going forward. You should have seen her face when the pool maintenance guy showed up and had nowhere to go. I was out front watering my plants. When she came storming down the sidewalk, "What the hell is that fence?" she shouted. I turned around slowly. "My property," I said, "just protecting it. You know how important boundaries are, right? You're blocking my pool access." Smiled. "That walkway was never yours. You've been trespassing. But if you're concerned, feel free to have your lawyer contact mine. I'd be happy to send over the property map." She stood there, sputtering. But my pool is scheduled for cleaning today?" "Not my problem," I said, and went back to watering later that week. She tried filing a complaint with the HOA about the fence, claiming it was retaliatory. The board reviewed my permits and documents and found nothing wrong, turns out. When you try to take someone's driveway, You don't get much sympathy when they take your pool access. The kicker? Without regular maintenance, her pool started to turn green. First algae, then cloudy water, then a stench that even drifted 3 houses down when the wind blew right. She ended up having to pay thousands to have it drained and scrubbed after. A city inspector issued a warning. Meanwhile, I painted a fresh seal coat on my red diamond driveway and installed solar garden lights to highlight its edges. It's never looked better. A few weeks ago, I got a quiet knock on my door. It was Karen, looking sheepish for once in her life. "I wanted to ask," she said, not meeting my eyes, "if we could work something out about the path, just for occasional access." I leaned on the doorframe and tilted my head. Oh, I thought. That strip was part of the HOA common space. You seemed awfully sure about boundaries a few weeks ago. She gave a tight smile. May have. Understood. I took a deep breath and said, "Tell you what, the HOA issues a formal retraction of all claims against my driveway and removes the flags, I'll consider drawing up a temporary access agreement. But it'll be on my terms, in writing, with a monthly usage fee." She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped herself. Then she nodded. 2 days later, I received an email from the HOA board. The flags were removed. The claim was withdrawn. The property confusion was chalked up to a clerical error. Now, every time her pool guy comes by, he has to check in with me first. She pays a monthly fee, signs a new agreement every 6 months, and knows that if she ever tries to cross me again, that gate on the fence will stay locked forever. Funny how quickly boundaries get respected. You enforce them with a little instant karma. Asterisk.